Hi there and welcome to Cooking with Natan. Right now we're going to make hummus and we're going to make it the old school way. We're going to use one of these, a mortar and pestle, to make hand mashed hummus. You know, you go to the Mexican restaurants and they have hand mashed guacamole and you think, what's so special about that? Well, hand mashed hummus is a lot better texture, and it's the old way of doing it, so it's a more authentic texture. Now you can get one of these. I got this for $12 at a Marshall's store. That's like Ross. It's a place here in the States where they sell clearance items, kitchen items, clothes, things like that. So it's not very expensive. This happens to be made out of granite. The other things we're going to need are 2 cans of garbanzo beans, also known as chickpeas, and in Israel they're called hummus beans. We're going to need a knife. We're going to need tahina. Tahina is a sesame paste. It's somewhat like peanut butter. You can see the consistency of it here. It's a little bit, this tahina is a little bit runnier and it separates, so make sure that you stir it before you use it. We're going to need 1 lemon. The way I'm doing the hummus, I'm using 4 good-sized cloves of garlic and some salt. This happens to be kosher salt. It does not have to be kosher salt, which is actually a misnomer because kosher salt is really koshering salt. But this is what I have on hand. We're going to need some olive oil. This one happens to have been made by an extra large number of virgins. As you can see, extra virgin. We're going to need za'atar. Za'atar is primarily sumac, and it's a really nice herb, or perhaps a spice, really nice herb to put on pretty much anything that you want to make that's Middle Eastern. And then we're going to need only the purest glacier water from the north of Norway. Now, if you can't get your hands on such water, then go ahead and use water from the tap. But I guarantee you, your hummus will taste no different with the purest glacier water. So, to get started, I've already opened our cans and I've drained them. The easiest way to drain them is to leave the lid in and tip it out into the sink as you squeeze. Alright? And take 1 can and drop it into the mortar. I'm going to pick up our pestle and we're going to start doing the monster mash. Now, authentic hummus, old school hummus, is done with 2 grinding wheels, just like how a lot of things used to be ground. And in the shuk in Jerusalem, if you're ever lucky enough to go, you can go in, and there is one particular shop where they make hummus, and they have 2 great big wheels. One of them stays stationary on the bottom, and it has a spout that comes out the front. The other one spins on top of it and has a hole in the top. Into this hole, they drop hummus beans. And once they go through, they go in between the, yeah, did you see the runaway hummus bean? That was nice, huh? Once they go through the hole, then they go in between the 2 stones and they get ground up all nice and fine. And what comes out the other end, once it's mixed with a little water, is basically a hummus that they'll then mix with the tahina and everything else. And it's just really, really neat to see things done in an old-fashioned way. Now you can see as I'm mashing this up, it's getting a really nice texture to it, but it's still got some thickness to it. Here, let me move the camera to it. Alright, so it takes just a little bit, but one of the main advantages of this is that it requires no electricity. If you live in California, you can still do this even in a rolling blackout. If you live in the Gaza Strip, for example, you can do it when the power gets shut off because you shot rockets at your own power stations. If you live out of the back of a van, you don't need a generator. And if it's Shabbat, you don't have to worry about plugging anything in. Another advantage is that even a child can do this. My 11-year-old is usually the one that makes the hummus around here. And I don't have to worry about her cutting her fingers off. Sometimes I have to worry about her smashing her fingers, but if she can't figure that one out, well then we don't all really need two hands, do we? So, get that all nice and mashed up. Go ahead and just use your freshly washed hand to pick it up. And we're going to pour it into a bowl. I'm going to kind of scrape it out of the inside like this. Because even though these beans were in water, once you mash them up like this, they actually get fairly dry. Okay, so that's one can. Now, this other can here, I'm going to empty most of the beans out into it. And I'm going to leave a few beans in here to dress the hummus once it's completed. Alright, so we get to mashing again. You know, a lot of people think that this is hard work, and it really isn't. Imagine trying to pick up those great big stones and mashing them together. Now that's hard work. But it's really, really good to hand mash your hummus. And it's really, really good to do it in a stone basin too. Anybody tell me why? Anybody? No? Well, because even hummus beans like to get stoned once in a while. So, we're going to get this all nice and mashed up as well. And now, there's something really important about all of this. I'm sorry, there is no recipe for this hummus. It all goes according to whatever your taste is, and that's really the best way to cook anyway, because nobody writing a recipe can know what kind of flavors you like and how much you like. You know, maybe you don't like salt very much. I don't like salt very much. I don't put very much in my food, but people always complain about it, so I put it on the table. But maybe you like it more, so you put more salt in it. I will tell you to be careful with the salt. Be careful with garlic as well. With salt and garlic, you may end up making it that you'll have to eat the entire thing of hummus, and trying to eat 30 ounces of hummus, or for those of you who don't live in America, I have no clue what the conversion would be, but believe me, it's a lot. Trying to eat 30 ounces of hummus yourself in a week or a week and a half before it goes bad, it's not a very easy task unless you go through it quite regularly. Okay, we've got this one all mashed up, and we'll scoop it also into our pretty little glass bowl. Now, for those of you who keep kosher, something very important. This can be kept parve. It does not have to be washed with anything except your hand and water. Maybe a paper towel if you like. You don't have to use soap. Although some authorities say that koshering a stone vessel is very easy. Most authorities actually. I prefer to not even bother. Wash it out and set it in the dish drainer to dry. We're going to do the same thing with the pesto. And set it right over there. The thing's stone. It's not going to fall off. Now, once we have our beautiful bowl of mashed up hummus beans, we are going to add some tahina. Now, as I told you, the tahina separates, okay? So we're going to go ahead and stir this around to make sure that we get all the dry tahina from the bottom, and we get the oil mixed in, and we make it all very nice and easy to scoop out. You have to get it incorporated, because if you don't, once you get to the bottom of the can, it's just a stiff mess. And then you waste about half of the tahina, and that's not a very efficient way to live. Okay, so I am going to scoop the tahina, and again, there are no measurements for this. I'm using a small spoon. I'm going to put about 2 scoops in, because that's what I like. Alright, as you make this a lot more, you will find that you like more tahina in it, you like less tahina in it. It all goes to personal taste. So we've got the tahina in it. We're going to take the extra virgins in our olive oil, and we're going to pour some in as well. Now, you can see we're going to do that much. You don't want to use too much olive oil, because olive oil has a very distinct flavor, and it can actually make the hummus taste very strange. Now we're going to take this over to our pure glacier water from the north of Norway, which I forgot to buy when I was in Norway last time. Oh, sure, you betcha. So I'm using tap water. And we just add a little bit at a time, because it's very easy to add way too much. Then you got to open another can of hummus beans, and you got to mash them up again, and it's a real mess, and you really don't want to do that. You know, when the state of Israel was established in 1948, they were trying to figure out what kind of currency they wanted to use for it, and they actually thought at one time, you know, maybe we'll just use little bottles of hummus. And everybody likes it. It's consumable. But the Ashkenazim, they didn't like that so much, and then the Sephardim were fighting with them, and finally they all decided that just using paper and coins was a much cleaner way to go anyway, and you didn't have to worry about contaminating your hummus with all the dirty fingers and everything that the money gets passed to. Just in case you were going to ask me for my sources on that, I will tell you that that is absolutely 100% not true. But anybody who's seen the Zohan can tell you that all Israelis use hummus for everything. My kids often tell me when we run out of toothpaste, just go get the hummus. It'll be just fine. Okay, so we've got a consistency like so. Now, it's a little bit thick. So, we're going to add just a little bit more water. Now, I'm using canned beans for this, but you can also use dried beans. The way that you prepare that is that you would soak them overnight in plenty of water, and put a little bit of baking soda in the water as well. You soak them overnight, covered, and then in the morning, drain out that water that you soaked them in, and put them all in a pot of fresh water with a little bit of salt, and you boil them on high. Now you boil them on high at a rolling boil until the skins start popping off, and the water gets a whole lot of foam on the top, and you skim off whatever skins you can and whatever foam you can, and the whole process takes not that long, but you do need to have a little bit of time. It takes between 30 minutes and an hour. So if you want to do it from dry beans, you absolutely can. One really neat part about using dry beans is that you cook it, and then when you put it in the mortar and pestle, it's still warm. And then when you put the hummus together, it's still warm. And it's an interesting thing to eat warm hummus for a change. Okay, we've got that all nice and incorporated there. Smells like I got just the right amount of tahina for me. And now we are going to take a nice fresh cup of tea and have a sip. Excuse me. Lovely. Okay, so now we're going to take our cloves of garlic. This garlic does not have to be whole, so the easiest way to do it, come on down here with me, is to mash it with the side of the knife. Now, when you mash it, of course, it makes the skin pop off. Really nice and easy to do that. If you, for some reason, wanted to have your garlic more whole, you can put it in a canning jar and put a lid on the canning jar, and you can shake it up for about 3 years, and it will make all of the skins pop off. It's a really efficient way, especially since 3 years is a very big exaggeration of the amount of time that it takes. So, I like this many cloves of garlic in it. I think that food without garlic is like non-alcoholic beer. You might as well just stay home and drink water. Some people don't like so much garlic. My kids sometimes complain, "Daddy, you made it too spicy." And I said, it's not spicy, it's good. But they don't agree with me because, hey, kids can be kids sometimes. So, we're going to get this all nice and minced up. Now, a little trick that you can do after cutting garlic, if you happen to have some lemon juice, is you can wash your fingers with lemon juice, and it keeps them from being sticky from the garlic forever. And get it nice and chopped up. Be careful of your fingers. Please, be careful of your fingers. You might think that it's kind of sexy to have your name be Four Finger Fred or Three Finger Teresa, but it really isn't. Nobody wants a hummus chef with only 4 fingers or only 3 fingers because you don't know where those fingers went. It might be garlic, but it might be fingers. Get that all nice and minced up, and we're going to just put it right into our bowl. Oh, we need that knife still because we need to cut up the lemon. Just cut it in half. Now, if your lemons are in the fridge first, they will actually juice a lot nicer. These weren't. I don't know why I left them out, but we're just going to take and squeeze it right into the hummus. Now, I don't know if everybody remembers, but I'm pretty sure that most of us were taught in school another name for human. Homo sapien. Yeah, you remember that from grade school? Now, this, if you like hummus a lot, can teach you another word for human. A hummus sapien. I'm going to use that whole lemon because I really like a good amount of lemon taste in there. I'm going to stir it up a bit and I'm going to add some salt. That is a little more than a teaspoon. Okie dokie. Put that in there. We're going to stir that up all nice and perfect like that. Make sure that you get everything stirred up really well. And while you're doing it, you can take the back of the spoon and kind of mash at the same time. Get any hummus beans that are still too whole. Get the consistency very nice, how you like it. So, once all of this is done, we're going to smooth out the top. And we're going to make a trough around the outside and a little well in the middle. And you'll find out why in just a second. Beautiful. We're going to take some more of our extra virgins and we are going to pour it into the trough that we made and into the little well. Put that aside and take our za'atar and we're gonna sprinkle that on top. Now, remember the hummus beans that I kept aside? I'm gonna put some of those right in the middle there. And just like that, you have a beautiful hand-mashed hummus. Pate avon, everybody.